The day was March 30th, 1981. President Ronald Reagan was leaving the Washington Hilton Hotel when gunfire rang out. He and three others were seriously injured. The gunman was identified as John Hinckley Jr. of Evergreen, Colorado. The twisted motive to get the attention of actress Jodie Foster. Hinckley was later found not guilty by reason of insanity. Now free from court supervision, we traveled to Virginia to interview Hinckley. From what I understand, when you were a young man growing up, you were a star, but then things went very wrong. What happened to your mind?
Well, when I was very young, like 10, 11, 12, I was real athletic, the quarterback, and I scored all the points in basketball, and I was just really on top of everything. In high school, I was kind of introverted, but then I went off to college, and I got isolated from my family and isolated from friends, and that's when the mental illness started. It was in my college years. I kept dropping in and out of school, Texas Tech.
How was that decline happening? What was taking place in your mind?
I was just getting depressed. I mean, I had a depression that was building and building, and that led to some delusions, and that's what led to the shooting.
While in Colorado, your parents kicked you out of your home at the advice of a psychiatrist. What impact did that have on you?
I'm sure it had an impact, but I don't blame my parents for anything. I was just hard to get along with at that point, and I think they were just exasperated and just trying to get me out on my own. At that time, I was, 21 years old, and they're just trying to move me along in life, so I don't blame them for anything.
Well, when you got to Washington, what was involved in planning this out?
I think I woke up that morning and saw a schedule of the president's schedule that day. That's how I knew he'd be at the hotel that day.
And then what?
I went to the hotel and waited till he came out.
No problems with security?
No. No.
Are you grateful you didn't die?
Oh yes, very grateful. I regret the whole thing tremendously.
What role did Taxi Driver, the movie, play?
I was living in Hollywood, California, and I think it was 1976. I saw that movie, Taxi Driver, and I got fixated on that movie. I saw it over and over, and it kind of stayed with me till the shooting, just the scenario of the movie.
What do you want to say to the families of those who were shot and injured?
I want to say to the Reagan family, the Brady family, the families of the other two victims, to Jodie Foster, that I'm sorry for what I did. I truly am. I wish I hadn't done it. If I could take it back, I would. So I would just say to them, I'm very sorry for what I did.
Were you planning the assassination attempt while you were in Colorado?
In March of '81, yes.
What was taking place then?
I mean, I guess I was at that motel or another one, and I wanted to make one last-ditch attempt at music, so I flew out to Hollywood, I think the first week of March '81, and I got out there, and I was so bad with my mental illness that I couldn't pursue a music career, so I kind of turned right around and got on a bus, a Greyhound bus, and went all the way from Hollywood to D.C., and a few days later I did the shooting.
What do you remember about your time in Colorado?
Well, my parents built a home in Evergreen, a real nice home in Evergreen. And at the time, Evergreen was this great place to live. It was kind of undeveloped. I'm sure now it's totally developed, but at the time, Evergreen was a nice place to live. I got an apartment down in Lakewood, which is in West Denver, and I had a job. I had a job across the street from my apartment at a place called Taylor's Supper Club. I don't know if it's still there anymore, but...
You were a busboy, weren't you?
Yes. I was also like a bartender's assistant. They had a disco downstairs. This is in the days of discos, and they had a disco downstairs, and I was kind of an assistant to that bartender down there.
Your parents, after the assassination attempt, became big campaigners for mental health. What do you want to say about their efforts and about people that might need help?
Well, my father set up the American Mental Health Fund, and he put a lot of time and energy into the American Mental Health Fund, trying to raise money for research into mental illness. So I give him and my mother a lot of credit for all they've done, all they did to get me to where I am now. They just worked so hard over the years to get me to where I am now with my freedom.
One of the people that was seriously injured by your gunfire was James Brady, the press secretary.
Right.
He and his family became strong advocates for gun control. How do you feel about that issue?
I believe there's too many guns in America. I saw a statistic where there's more guns in America than there are people. That's kind of a startling statistic. So I think there's too many guns in America. I think assault weapons should be banned. So I'm in favor of some kinds of gun control.
That's interesting, coming from someone who tried to assassinate the president.
Right.
What led you to that belief?
Just watching the news and just no, I'm far different. I don't even recognize that person back then.
What was it during your treatment that was able to turn you from a depressed would-be presidential assassin into a man now free and able to function?
I think the main thing throughout my years at St. Elizabeth's is I had a relationship with Leslie DeVoe, and she's the one who kind of turned me around and got me back to reality and got me out of my illness, out of my depression. It was a real relationship. I had a 22-year relationship with her. We were, engaged to be married, so it was a very tight relationship. That's kind of I point to that as the main thing that got me out of my illness, my depression.
What would you like to say to the American people?
I'd just like to say I hope you can accept me for the way I am now and listen to my music, because you can get to know me well if you listen to my songs.
I was just wondering if your music career has suffered because of who you were back then.
It has. I get these venues and the concerts sell out, but then the venues cancel on me because of backlash they receive from putting on the concert. So I've had 4 venues cancel on me. So yeah, I'm having a really hard time finding a venue that'll stand up for me.
Do you blame them?
Somewhat, because I would not do a concert unless I felt like the venue was safe. I want safety for me and for the audience. And for each of those concerts, I was working with the promoter to make sure there's going to be adequate security. So I don't think it was a good thing that they canceled those concerts, because we had adequate security in place.
What is life like for you? What do you do? Music all day, or?
Just about. I have a friend who's my lead guitarist, and we've been jamming lately. We got a good little act together now, where we got about 20 songs that we're working on. And if I can ever get a venue, we're gonna perform together at these venues.
And how do you feel about where you are now?
I feel very good.
Why do you feel good?
Because I'm free. I'm free at last after 41 years.
Hinckley is now living in Williamsburg, Virginia, where he says people treat him just fine. Rick Sallinger, covering Colorado First.